I know at one time you and Shyne were roommates. Um, take us through that because I remember reading that in your book, man.
Yeah.
And this is like years ago, and I encourage everybody. It
Oh
gives you a
my
different
gosh.
perspective on
Life, man.
that time and your journey in this whole thing. But you and Shine, this is during that the gun incident, right? The
Right around
shooting
then.
in New York.
Little bit
Talk,
before it.
okay, a little bit before. So what was Shine like at that time? What was it like being around him? You know, what was y'all friendship relationship
Right.
like?
With Shyne, Puff used to give Shyne a stack of CDs. It'd be Dog Pound, Snoop Dogg, all the rappers, and he said, "Just go home and study these records, cause this is what you need to do." So Shyne was still looking for that shine. He was still looking for. I'm gonna
Finding
figure out
himself.
finding himself. He didn't have a style.
And
He's,
I heard, you know, obviously he sounded like Big.
he sounded like
Was
Big.
that a problem for him? I heard
It
Junior
wasn't a
Mafia.
problem with me, but it was a problem with Junior Mafia.
So they didn't like him. They didn't receive
They
Shine.
they had their little times where they didn't accept him with the open arms like that. And then it also was seeming like Puff was trying to recreate a Biggie situation with someone who sounded like Big. But Sean lived with me in the house. Me and him lived in Puff apartment. Well, Puff had a condo on 35th Street. It was a double story, 2 bedroom. At the time, he was still dating Kim Porter, but he started dating J Lo. So he had a whole nother place over there with J Lo. He was never coming back to this place. So immediately I went and took his picture off of the wall, went to Eckers and made me one. I put my picture right up on there. I was like, "It's my crib." So the only time that they give you up is
It was
when
like
they,
at home.
yeah, when the girls would
Yeah.
come in or who they come in, they'd be like, "Why all of these plaques say Sean Combs?" Sean Combs. I'd be like, he gave them to me.
Yeah.
So we lived there. So one day I came in and Shyne had a AK. He said the bullet is jammed in it. I said, he said, "Can you get the bullet out?" I said, "Sean, if you can't get the bullet out this thing, you shouldn't even be having it." So another friend came and helped him get the bullet out. Next day, well, not too long after that, Puff signed him. He gave Sean some money, right? Sean said, "Mark, come with me to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. I'm ready to go get me a Benz."
So
I
the
said,
day
okay.
he gets his check.
Yeah, as soon as he get the check, it's already he did it through accountant. My accountant, I'm going to get this car. Call the bank and let them know I got the money. Do whatever you need to do. I want this car. They was like, "Well, we don't have a 600. We only have a 500." He said, "I don't want a 500. I want a 600." He said, "Well, can y'all take the 600, take the 500 off and put the 600 letters on it?" They said, "Yeah." So they put the 600 letters on it. He riding around with the 500. So
Wow.
the next day he come home. Well, I got in the car with him. I was like, "Sean really don't know how to drive." I was like, "I'm gonna stay out of this car." So the next day he came home. The window was busted out. I said, one of the windows.
The day after he got it.
So after he got it, I said, "What happened?" He said, "Man, I was at this girl house and her boyfriend came out and started shooting at me." I was like, "Well, that's what happens when you get a car. You think you can get all the girls now, especially." And he was going back to Brooklyn, like where his hometown is. Let me go back with this Benz around all of these people that I grew up with and holler at these girls that I used to want. "Oh, Sean, you got a Benz yet?" So the next day, after that, he was like, "Mark, you want to ride with me to Brooklyn?" I said, "Nah, I got something else I want to do." And he had this friend named Nino that had a red 850, and he could drive. New Yorkers drive crazy. So Sean didn't know how to drive, following Nino, who knows how to drive. Anyhow, I get a call that says, "Mark, you need to come up to the hospital." So I get up to the hospital, and I'm in the ICU unit. It's Shyne in this room, his cousin in that room, his friend in that room. This one over here died. His cousin died. The axle,
one that was driving.
No, he was in the back seat, and the axle. Once he had the car impacted, he ran. It was a light, and it was in front of the light. He had to make a left or right, and he didn't make the left or right. And I think he went up, and the car might have hit on that curve or whatever, and it hit the bottom axle and broke the axle and pulled it up through the car and went right through the man's back.
His cousin. Wow. So this is the same day you said, I'm not going to ride with
Same
you.
day I said I'm not riding. And then when I got there, the doctor said, please do not tell him that his cousin died because we do not want him to go into shock. So the whole time I'm sitting there talking to him, he's like, how's my cousin? How's everybody? I said, everybody's good. Everybody cool. Everybody just chilling. He said, they're not telling me nothing. And then that's what happened. That's my Shyne story.
Man. Wow, that's a powerful story, man. You've seen a lot. Were you there when the night he went out with Puff?
I wasn't there that night.
Was he still staying at the same place?
I don't know where Shyne was staying at that time. I don't know where he was staying at that time, but Puff had a place on. He was living on Park Avenue in York or something, 77 Park, and it was a time when I used to come to New York. He used to be like, "Yo, you gotta come stay at my house. No more hotels." And then I used to have to go stay in. Yeah. And then because I was a wild dude, I'm going out to like the girl who the bartender at Club New York. That was my girlfriend.
Now Club New York is what?
That's the club that they had the shooting.
So your girlfriend at the time is the bartender. So she saw everything.
Yeah, she saw everything. She called me. She said, "Mark, Puff and them, they just had a shootout in the club." So I'm like, wow. And I also had a friend that was from California visiting. I told him to go hang out with them, and that's that happened that night. And then I wasn't there that night, but I knew what was going on.
It's interesting because the woman who was the victim in that has been speaking out a lot more, saying it was really Puff that bust his gun. And I know,
as far as that is concerned, I kind of touched up on that a little earlier, where I said once you hear a gun shot go off, the first thing you think is to close your eyes and duck. It is so hard to see somebody, if you ask me, shoot you and you're still living, and you be like, I just feel like only if somebody shoots you, it's the bullet travels faster than sound. So how in the world can you see once you don't never know, you don't even know where he shot the gun. The only thing you might see is him holding the gun. So in some situations, and I'm not saying that she's wrong, and I'm not saying that she's right, but I'm not saying that she's wrong, but to let me see or hear that you saw somebody, like if I hear some gunshot, I ain't gonna be able to see. I'd be like, man, I heard the gunshot, I hit the floor.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I knew.
Yeah.
Right.
That incident during that time, I remember being on the radio in D.C. and I remember Donald Trump saying that he was probably the first call Puff made at that time, and I guess Trump had some connections. This is when he was deeply rooted on the hip hop side. Mm-hmm. So I took that to mean that Puff was definitely moving in some interesting circles.